Hey there, it's Evan Nathaniel Grimm, and welcome to my February 2025 forecast. I will be revealing my predictions for all 12 zodiac signs as well as my predictions for society as a whole. And I'm going to share my screen. So, again, we're going to be tracking the motions of the planets and applying them to the zodiac signs and to the world. So I'm just going to park it here at a midpoint. So looking actually at the Leo full moon in mid-February there for now, but I'm just going to use this as a visual aid, and I'm going to start off with some high-level observations. So February 2025, we are going to at least start to tie up some loose ends with our finances, relationships, and our creative pursuits. This is all because Venus will be in a pre-retrograde shadow period. So Venus, which is the planet of money, relationships, creativity, harmony, and so on, will eventually retrograde in March and April. But throughout the month of February, it will be passing along the band of the zodiac where it will eventually retrograde. So we are going to begin to reconsider, financial decisions, values, personal values, relationships, friendships, creative endeavors, and so on. And with Venus's initial sort of pass through in Pisces, and I guess really finishing its transit through Pisces, we will be sort of focused on relationships that either resonate with us at a deep spiritual level, or relationships that are healing, or creative pursuits that are transcendent. And then, as Venus spends most of February in Aries, we will also be emphasizing our own individual values and the preservation of the self and the individual in our relationships. We also, I think, will be experiencing all kinds of Uranian events in February because at the very end of January, Uranus stations direct, meaning that the planet of reinvention, innovation, liberation, autonomy, it's gaining ground. And we have again, as I'm showing you here, a Leo full moon mid-month that squares off with Uranus. And so we are going to be feeling like reinventing ourselves or our journey or our careers or making a hard pivot in a different direction. And I think that because of this, authenticity will be really honored during this month, even though we will also be focused on certain relationships that really demand, that we put faith in something outside of ourselves. So we will be in a position to experience these very blissful relationships that inspire us and almost unify us at the same time that we are pursuing these new avenues that are still in the vibration of the individual. So some of the dominant transits this month, which I will be diving into much further in a bit, are the Mars retrograde square Chiron transit. This is going to help us, I think, stand up for anyone who is, seen as downtrodden, or anyone who needs, like we will be rushing to protect and defend those who need help. It also could bring about some tense situations, though, and it could underscore our own needs to better manage our anger. And we will also have the Venus-Neptune North Node alignment, which again is pointing us towards either relationships or creative situations that are sort of larger than life, transcendent, unifying. We will experience Jupiter moving direct, so we can start to gain new opportunities thanks to that. And then at the very end of the month, Mars does station direct. Mars retrograde will be ending finally. So that can help us on February 23rd when it stations direct, can help us recapture some mojo and energy, libido, and drive. However, Mars will still be squaring Chiron. So we will continue to courageously work through wounds or insecurities that we may have. Um, but let's call a spade a spade. I mean, the year so far has been very draining for most people, unless you have Mars retrograde in your natal chart. But for most people, this whole year so far, all of 4 weeks of it, has probably been very frustrating, depleting, enervating, and it's because of the Mars retrograde. And for most of February, that's continuing. So like, don't expect to have every ounce of energy back yet, but I still think with Uranus stationing direct, Jupiter moving direct, we will start to, um, you know, connect the dots a little bit more quickly. We will be able to articulate our overarching perspective on something with Jupiter direct and with Uranus direct. We will be making these pivots, like I said, redirecting our energy towards things that are, more exciting, albeit when Uranus is direct. There are some shocking events that can unfold, or even seismic activity like earthquakes. But I think that we can also harness this to, because we're familiar with Uranus and Taurus, right? We can use this Uranus direct motion to electrify the Taurus ruled house of our birth chart and to, again, institute these sort of innovative methods and tactics. And even with Uranus and Taurus, the sign of money, to find more creative or innovative ways to monetize something we're doing, to add and introduce flexibility to our work, to our careers, and to potentially even make money in a more digital environment in a way that untethers us from any kind of like overlord, corporate overlord, or something like that. And so let me just make a quick adjustment to my screen here. Um, so before I keep going through this month ahead, I do want to review some things in January, though, to give context and to the month. So obviously January was very much defined by the tragic fires in Los Angeles, which directly impacted me. I have a house in LA. Luckily, the house is fine, but I've been sort of trying to steer clear of the town while as much as I can, just due to like concerns about air quality and water quality and so on. But LA was really, rocked by these fires, and something strange happened a few days before the fires that I want to share. So I was delivering a webinar to my Substack subscribers about the astrology of 2025. And while the bulk of the presentation was resting on the analysis and sort of the left brain activity of just observing the stars and the skies, I did have a portion of it that was more channeled intuitively. And I created an AI generated image to summarize the year ahead. I want to share that with you. So on January 5th, I presented this and shared this picture, which I sort of used again as a visualization of the year ahead. And as I described this image, I described it as a Paul Walker lookalike, so an actor. I pictured an actor running from like a flame or an exploding vehicle while a sort of copter-like drone flies overhead. And I talked about how the transits in the first 3 months of the year, including Mars square Chiron, recalled this image in my mind of a firefighter saving someone from a burning building. I also talked about how there might be an explosive event in the news that inspires people to rally around a humanitarian cause and help the victims of that explosion. And 2 days later, January 7th, and I did that presentation in Los Angeles. 2 days later, I hopped on a flight out of LA for a funeral. But so I left LA by coincidence, but a few hours after my flight is when the fires began. And I was just witnessing all this unfold, and I was thinking back immediately to this presentation and how eerie and how strange it was that this was the visual that I came up with to summarize the year ahead. And I don't think that this image only reflects the fires in LA, although obviously that's the most direct example and analog right now. I think that this does capture the energy of 2025 in a thematic sense where I mean, I think extreme climate change related events will continue throughout the year. So whether it's a drought in one area, flooding in another, earthquakes in one area, or hurricanes, whatever it is, sea level rises, we are witnessing how planet Earth is in a state of imbalance, right? And that's going to be accentuated once Chiron goes into Taurus next year. And even with, it's also pertinent for now because Uranus, again, stationing direct in Taurus January 30th, and spending much of February still turning itself around, in obviously metaphorically, but changing apparent direction in the sky again. And in Taurus, which is the sign associated with the land, we are going to continue to witness how the earth is changing in accordance with the way that we as human beings are using the earth and, excavating the earth for resources, for either computing or power sources or whatever. And I do think that Leo full moon on February 12th, unfortunately, could generate some seismic activity. Even Uranus's stationary position at the end of January could do that, but I think the full moon is more likely when it would happen. Now, I don't want to manifest an earthquake, so I'm just going to like recuse myself from mentioning any locations. But I think that kind of like where I'm heading with that possible prediction there. I mean, I do worry a little bit about earthquakes in the middle of February. But anyways, we also will have this idea in this image of kind of experiencing the shadow sides of technology because part of the spirit of this image was also, the dysfunction that technology would bring or the dystopia that technology would bring, meaning, you know, AI potentially could reach a point of advancement where it's out of our control. Or let's say, you know, a device like a drone was used towards destructive ends. And like in LA, we saw how drones were interfering with the efforts of the first responders to put out the fires. We saw in New Jersey how drones were hovering around the airspace, right? And so I do think 2025 will witness, you know, cybersecurity incidents, hacks, all kinds of events like that. Again, alongside these other opportunities, though, potentially to use maybe technology to help rescue someone or, yeah, from a fire or from some other type of disaster. So I think that this image contains a lot of different meanings in one. So I don't want you to think that this image was purely, you know, a reflection of the fires in LA. I think that this also speaks to the influx of fire and air elements in the transits this year where things are happening more quickly. I talked about in the webinar, thermodynamics. We're increasing the temperature. The molecules are moving more quickly. There's a dynamism to the year where things are moving faster, but it's all in the spirit of transformation into something else. So even if we have to make rapid adjustments this year as technology basically outpaces us, it does feel like this is a year where we are solving problems very quickly as they arise. It's bringing us into a state of or a mode of resiliency that is all part of our evolution. Now, I'm going to stop sharing this picture for now, although I think that it does kind of relate to what I'm about to mention. I mean, we also witnessed, and let me share the other screen again. We also witnessed in January the inauguration of Donald Trump, and regardless of whether you voted for Trump or you didn't vote for Trump, it's objectively true that Trump is testing the limits of the executive branch, testing the limits of his power. He's issuing many executive orders, some of which flout the Constitution or challenge it at least. And his inauguration was very closely aligned with that Sun-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius, so he is taking on a Uranian identity, which he is anyways. He has a Sun-Uranus conjunction in his birth chart, and Elon Musk, one of his, accomplices, has a Sun-Uranus square. So we're seeing revolutionary tactics in the federal government. And I'm not assigning a positive or negative value to those tactics. I'm just explaining that objectively he is bucking trends. He is setting aside formalities and norms. He is not, you know, giving any courtesies to the previous administration, for example. And, past presidents would always, be magnanimous in their transition. But anyways, that was one other news story, and the TikTok ban as well was a big news story. With TikTok being temporarily banned and coming back seemingly as an incomplete version, at least energetically, of its typical self. It's almost like TikTok is operating as just a husk of its former self right now. We are seeing how Pluto and Aquarius is conjuring these themes of censorship, also control over social media platforms. And as the internet becomes more powerful, it attracts the powerful. And social media platforms like TikTok are lifting up the voices of the masses, right? It's allowing people like you and me to convey messages that either confirm or challenge the narratives. And it I think is tempting for the plutocrats or the powerful to control the platforms because, whoever controls the platforms controls the messaging. And whoever can control the messaging can control the minds of millions or hundreds of millions. And this is a theme I previewed and presaged in a video 2 years ago on YouTube. You can still look it up, the Pluto and Aquarius prediction video I did in January 2023. I talked about this, how Pluto and Aquarius would give us the tools to reach mass audiences instantaneously, but there's another side to that coin, which is that, these opportunities for like for us, like an opportunity for the masses is a challenge for the plutocrats, naturally, because they often have diametrically opposed agendas or impulses, or maybe not impulses, but agendas. So you could argue that, generally, I mean, everyone wants power, I guess, cynically, but like, with a platform like TikTok, it has allowed information to be disseminated more freely. It's sort of symbolized a free marketplace of ideas. But I think that January set the tone, and it created a domino effect where pretty much for the next 20 years while Pluto's in Aquarius, there will be a balancing act and this back and forth between the attempts by the masses to decentralize access to information or open access to information and the heavy-handed efforts of those in power to squash that digital rebellion or to squash those movements under the guise of protecting our data. When in reality, of course, many technology companies, whether they're founded in the US or otherwise, have likely compromised our information, right? So these are seemingly arbitrary lines to draw, or they are double standards to hold. And I guess I'm inserting my own opinion in that at that point, but I do believe that this is a power battle that will go on for a long time. So, anyways, now let's jump into February and talk about again the well, just go through some of these key transits. So, before I do that, just remember that there are really some ingresses to be aware of as well, which is the point at which a planet enters the sign. So, Venus enters Aries February 3rd, at which point, again, we will be highlighting our personal values and we will be attempting to preserve our individual identities and passions in a relationship or relationships. Mercury will enter Pisces on February 14th, which will make us more creative, maybe in our thought process, or it will give us a spiritual, maybe even channel to conceive of things, or not only would it spark our imagination, but actually Pisces has a lot to do with like the sciences and like biology and the subatomic. So maybe some people will become focused on like science, but Mercury in Pisces generally is non-linear in its thought process. So we may, you know, have a looser relationship to reality and articulate these more creative ideas. The Sun will enter Pisces February 18th. So during Pisces season, it's always a time to reflect on your healing journey, what you need to let go of, what types of endings you want, or what needs to go, what needs to end in, what aspect of like a relationship or a habit needs to end. or what sort of divine energy do you want to tap into, all those types of things. And now I want to go through the key retrogrades and direct motions. So we do have Uranus stationing direct January 30th, which is happening a few days after I'm filming this. So I'm going to count that as part of February's energy. So Uranus has been retrograde since September 1st of 2024. So ever since Uranus stationed retrograde in September of last year, we have been reflecting on the reinvention of our values, the electrifying, unpredictable changes that have occurred in our life since late January of last year. And once Uranus stations direct here, it's going to start marching all the way through Taurus and finally getting into Gemini by July. So think about this Uranus direct motion as a big deal because once it stations direct, it's like it's not our last chance to electrify the Taurus ruled house of our charts, but it's one of the last chances because Uranus will retrograde back into Taurus by the end of the year. But once we get into like the spring, summer of 2026, like it's not going back into Taurus, for a long time. So in this case, though, as it pertains to February, Uranus's direct motion will help us accelerate forward in the Taurus ruled house of our birth charts. And I would recommend you use a whole sign system, house system. It will also help us reinvent our values, our monetary strategies, and it will actually help us embrace instability because Taurus is a fixed earth sign and Uranus has fallen in Taurus because Taurus wants that, stable material possession or that stable nourishment or just that stable environment. And Uranus continually shakes that up, right? It is like an earthquake. And we've all been going through our own proverbial earthquake since 2018, but especially the fixed signs, right? Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. So for Tauruses, this Uranus, direct motion is going to, I think it will still be a little disconcerting, I think, for Tauruses, but it will help them make peace with instability in a way that they had not before 2018, right? That's the upside of Uranus in their sign. But I think for everyone, it is an opportunity to find novel approaches to making money, building wealth, using AI to reinvent your work process, to maybe deploy technology in a way that untethers you from a standard 9 to 5 environment. Or, you might be able to free yourself from a corporate or overlord. And juxtaposed with Venus in Aries, an entrepreneurial sign, I actually do think a lot of people will find routes to entrepreneurship in the month of February. Jupiter stations direct February 4th in Gemini, and it is in detriment also in Gemini here. So Uranus has fallen in Taurus, Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini, and Mars, by the way, which is stationing direct this month, is fallen in Cancer. So all these planets that are moving directions are uncomfortable in these signs. But you could argue that because they were retrograde and coming out of those retrogrades, we can find savvier ways to work with those planets in those signs and help those planets thrive. So with Jupiter and Gemini direct, this can help us capture gains and opportunities in the Gemini ruled house of our chart. And it can make us, I think, less overwhelmed by the stream of information and news out there. We can also become more capable of reconciling contradictions and dualities in general in order to paint a bigger picture about something and tell a different story. So Jupiter and Gemini can result in too much information, overload of information. However, after the retrograde of Jupiter and Gemini, I think we have better filtration systems basically to understand how to interpret the information that's been being thrown at us. Because, we live in a modern age where the news cycle is relentless. But Jupiter here also, direct, again, can help us connect the dots between all of these seemingly random news stories and transcend and float above all the seemingly kind of chaotic randomness of those news stories. We can also begin to experience greater success in the Gemini related efforts that we may be pursuing, like travel, logistics, writing, teaching, and learning. And I wonder, with Jupiter being perspective and Gemini being the lungs and breathing, and Saturn being in Pisces, which is a sign that relates to toxins, I wonder if we will gain more awareness and perspective on respiratory ailments, especially mystery coughs or ailments out there. Definitely, there will be a lot of reports about the effects of the fires in LA on breathing, on respiratory health. And I don't want to scare anyone who lives in LA because I live in LA too. I mean, I have no personal reason to inspire fear where none is necessary. But I do think that we will start to realize that reports like the AQI, which I believe stands for Air Quality Index, but the reporting systems, I think we will realize that, even though we already know this, but those reporting systems, like they do not capture the full scale of like they don't actually read certain particulates that are really, really, infinitely small, right? So I think that there will be efforts to actually try to measure and monitor the effect of the fires on Los Angeles residents. And once Saturn goes into Gemini in the early 2030s, that, might be a time where you start to see advertisements about like compensation funds. Like, were you in LA during the fires? If so, you might be entitled to blah, blah, blah compensation. Similar to how after 9/11, people who lived below Canal Street were entitled to compensation. So that kind of aligns with Saturn, North Node, Neptune, and Pisces. Again, a sign that has a lot to do with pervasive chemicals or toxins in either the water or the atmosphere. And obviously, a lot of chemicals were released by the fires. So I'm not telling you to run away or move away. You obviously either you have reasons to stay, whether you have always lived there or you don't, maybe you don't have the means to move. I respect like anyone's situation with that. Or maybe you could move, but you just don't want to let go of, or you want to stand up for your city, you want to help people. I respect all of those scenarios. But I want to be realistic and clear with you. I think that events like the fires in LA and potentially other events like other natural disasters or climate related disasters or whatnot throughout the world this year, whatever happens this year in terms of natural disasters, I do think there is going to be an effort, a greater effort to invest in more accurate reporting mechanisms to understand the aftermath and the potential chronic effects on us, on human beings, right? Especially when it comes to respiratory health with Jupiter and Gemini. But, Gemini is just information and data generally. So juxtaposed to bring in the Aquarian transits, I do think healthcare technology is taking massive leaps forward this month. Whether it's the Oracle CEO talking about new mRNA technologies for customized, immunizations or whatever. And by the way, regardless of what you think about that, I'm not commenting on that. If you think that it's too experimental to be rolled out to the population, fair enough. If you believe in science or scientific advancement over and above any risks, whatever, it's up to you. You can take your own position on that. But I think that the Pisces and Aquarius transits we're experiencing this month, plus again, Uranus moving direct, Jupiter and Gemini bringing in more data, more salient data. I think that we will either be using AI to innovate in the healthcare space or with medical technology, Or, we will just be like tech companies or medical device companies will be announcing new products that help us monitor health. And I think at the Consumer Electronics Show in January, there was some kind of like full body mirror that was revealed that or launched that tracks your health in real time. So I think that will be a theme. Now, also Mars is stationing direct on February 23rd, and this is and let me actually go to that in the chart. So we have Mars stationing direct on February 23rd. And by this time, so it's actually on the 23rd, but I'll just show it here. When Mars stations direct on the 23rd of February, we will ideally regain our libido, drive, mojo. And again, if you have Mars retrograde in your birth chart already, then this probably isn't an issue for you. Like, I have Mars retrograde in my birth chart, and even though Mars is retrograde right now, I literally went to the gym 5 times last week, which like 5 days in a row, which I usually only go like 3 times a week. So like for me, Mars retrograde has actually been a great thing. But I think if you don't have Mars retrograde in your chart, you're probably exhausted right now. You're probably drained, probably wondering what the hell is going on. Most of February will continue this trend of Mars retrograde. And it's okay to feel depleted, it's okay to feel exhausted. But I would recommend because of that, because it's in Cancer, I would recommend exploring different, well, I would adjust your sleep cycle because Cancer has a lot to do with natural rhythms, lunation cycles, hormones. Yeah, natural rhythms. So, I actually experienced this over the past few weeks. Started going to bed 2 to 3 hours earlier, waking up 2 to 3 hours earlier. And that has actually helped me restore and retain my energy. So if you're like absolutely at the bottom of in the pits of misery right now with no energy, like try adjusting your sleep cycle. With Mars stationing direct, though, at the end of February, I think everybody will experience a resurgence of, again, their energy levels. But it will still be fallen in Cancer, right? So you might not feel immediate relief, and it will be squaring Chiron, which means that you might still feel either insecure about asserting your Martian energy, or you might feel like you're still in conflict with someone, or you might be directing a lot of your energy towards defending and protecting the downtrodden or people that are, bullied, or you might be putting a lot of energy into standing up for yourself, and the combination of all that could be a little bit draining for you. So, oh, sorry. Anyways, I think that, but I think that in general, when Mars stations direct, you will be more effective at managing frustrations, nurturing yourself, and maybe playing a leadership role in your family, with Mars being leadership, family being, or sorry, you can't, the sign of Cancer being family. You also might even at that time regain a rhythm with the lunation cycle, with Mother Nature, and feeling in sync. So now let's go through some noteworthy transits, which will somewhat speak to what I mentioned, but will include more specific alignments. So let's go to the beginning of the month to give you more of a play-by-play. And I'm actually going to start off with the transits that are persisting throughout the month. So Mars, I just talked about Mars retrograde in Cancer. It will be doing two things throughout the month. First of all, it will be squaring Chiron. It will also be trining Saturn. So I'm going to start off with the Chiron square. So Mars square Chiron is tough. Well, first of all, it's what compelled me to express this visual in January, on January 5th, before the fires, of a firefighter saving someone from a burning building. So Mars square Chiron absolutely can be courageous acts to protect or defend somebody or save someone's life. And in that video, in that webinar, I talked about how people may be rescuing people in situations that are high risk. And that's exactly what's happened in LA. And even in your own life, maybe you will find, I'm just making this up, but maybe you will find a rescue dog in a like a stray dog in a situation where you have to, yeah, you decide I'm gonna rescue this dog, even though it's like trapped, underneath some rubble. I mean, that's kind of the energy of Mars in Cancer square Chiron and Aries. So even though you're taking a risk to get under that rubble and save that dog, it's like maybe you nurture that dog and maybe you take care of that dog, and that's a very fulfilling experience. With Mars square Chiron, you will probably, again, just generally feel like defending the downtrodden, people who are being bullied or marginalized or overlooked. You also might stand up for yourself within the context of your family or some other situation, like with a roommate or a cohabitant or a landlord. And you might even see yourself as one of the downtrodden. Now, you have to be cautious with that because I think that sometimes, and I've witnessed this on social media lately, I've witnessed that some people will go to great lengths to kind of like play this card of like, oh, you know, I am part of the downtrodden and I will flex my muscles almost to like an exaggerated degree to defend someone when I'm not really doing it to actually defend them. I'm doing it for the sake of my ego. Because Mars has a lot to do with our ego, actually. So make sure that you avoid people who are a little bit too quick to rush to, I don't know, put themselves on a pedestal by pretending to be virtuous and defending someone. And also avoid people who are sensitive to criticism. Because Mars square Chiron and Aries is bringing out, as I described in a video recently, like a Napoleon complex of sorts in people. Not necessarily literally, it doesn't have to be about height, but anyone who feels insecure about something in themselves may be extra sensitive and extra combative right now. So like if there's someone in your life who is highly sensitive to whatever it is, something personal about themselves, like don't heckle them about it, but also don't even like joke around with them about some insecurity they may have because they won't take it well. So yeah, just be careful about that. Also, this is a good time though to re-strengthen yourself or strengthen muscles that were previously a lot weaker. And you can return to a self-confidence through this square actually by again learning how to be a leader and learning to see yourself not as like a weak person or a victim, but as a really strong individual. And then yeah, and then use that strength to actually help and protect someone who really does need your assistance. This could be a tough time though for people who are in relationships that are not flourishing right now, especially through the lens of like physical intimacy, because Venus will be in Aries at this time as well, with Mars as the dispositor of that Venus in Aries, with again Mars retrograde in Cancer, squaring Chiron in Aries. Like if your libido is down right now, just pay attention to that, stay on top of that. You can obviously develop tactics to regaining your libido, which I don't have to get into on this video, but whatever you need to do, if this happens to you, to regain your libido, just keep track of that. And with Venus about in a pre-shadow in Aries, like you might reflect on the level of passion in your relationships and the excitement in them. And so if you're in a relationship right now, let's say where there's just no sparks left, but your previous relationship was like really exciting in that area, you might reconsider the relationship because of that. So I think that like if you're in a romantic relationship, you have to like really prioritize just cultivating and nurturing the physical intimacy aspect of it. This could also, though, as Mars Chiron square throughout the month, could help you voice your misgivings or grievances in a relationship. Again, with Mars dispositing Venus and Aries. So I think a lot of people will be taking clear stances, though, on what they want and what they need in a relationship. And that should ideally help your relationships thrive. And ideally, by the time Mars stations direct, you regain the libido. Again, if you have Mars retrograde in your birth chart, you probably won't have any issues there. So now let's go into Um, oh yeah, Mars trines Saturn. Again, this is prevailing throughout the entire month. Mars trine Saturn is a positive transit. It can really help you basically make productive gains with professional or long-term projects. And I think the key word is productivity there. So now we're going to go through the more play-by-play type transits. So first of all, we have the Venus-Neptune North Node conjunction, Feb 1. And I'm showing that right here. So the Venus-Neptune North Node conjunction is, well, it speaks to a range of things. I think that the North Node Neptune conjunction with Venus should be positive for you at the beginning of the month. This could point out a, well, this could help you open up to a creative idea that is just very formative and successful for you. Like you might be able to channel an idea for a song or a film or a creative writing project that ends up, becoming very successful for you. It could also help you gain ground in a relationship through the lens of like forgiving someone, healing in that relationship, helping someone out, lifting them up, or experiencing unity with that person. And I feel like that North Node conjunction is hopefully creating a buffer and preventing you from falling into a deceptive relationship. So like this initial transit of Venus Neptune in the North Node should be very enlightening for you, uplifting and transcendent, where you're putting your faith in a relationship, but you don't idealize them either, or you're putting energy into a humanitarian effort, like a benefit concert or a donation drive for like the LA fires or something. Or maybe again, you're healing a relationship and repairing it. Or maybe you're resolving karma in a relationship or issues in relationships that span lifetimes. You might be dealing with past life relationships at this time. um, but I also want to talk about and take this opportunity to talk about the Venus pre-shadow because I think that, you know, it is going to go into Aries thereafter for most of the month. And in that case, the transition of from Pisces to Aries is basically helping you balance ideally transcendence and unification via Pisces with the needs to preserve the individual's needs, I guess, through the lens of Aries. So, you know, with the pre-shadow, any decisions you make though with relationships, money, financing, and creativity are subject to be reevaluated during the eventual Venus retrograde. And it could teach you some harsh lessons during the retrograde because it will station direct in a conjunction with Saturn on April 12th. So if you fall in the beginning of February for the lies or the deception or the manipulation, the shadow, if you do experience the shadow side of Pisces where it's like all take and no give, or sorry, yeah, all take and no give, or someone is depleting your energy, asking a lot of you, asking you to pity them or help them, but they're not helping you. You would have a severe reality check by mid-April. And by the way, to give you some context with the retrogrades, with Venus retrograde, events from March and April of 2017 could even resurface because that was the previous time that Venus retrograded in Pisces and Aries. So values from that time period could be fully transformed. You could reflect on creative, financial, or relationship through lines over the past 8 years. And again, any decisions you make in creative, financial, or relationship areas could be revisited during the retrograde in March and April. Or momentum in these areas could decelerate. But at the beginning of February, when Venus aligns with Neptune and the North Node, ideally you are experiencing creative breakthroughs, unifying relationships, you are forgiving someone, healing through a relationship, or you're cultivating a creative partnership or something. Like even that could go down. So I think the North Node is ensuring that whatever happens at the beginning of February is aligning you with your destiny and your potential. That it's actually maybe not digging up the past. Like if it was the South Node in Pisces with Neptune and Venus, then you would be very much calling from the past and dredging up all of these unresolved karmic issues. But I think with the North Node, maybe you forgive for the sake of your sort of advancement in life or in that relationship, or you heal and move on, or you, again, arrive at a creative idea or spiritual epiphany that really helps you feel whole and complete in the universe. I mean, it could be very profound in that way. But anyway, so that's kickstarting the month. And then we have a Mercury Cazimi February 9th. And that Cazimi, any Mercury Sun Cazimi is a time of clarification, articulation of a thought that was previously cloudy. It can be a great day for communication in general. And this one is squaring Uranus. So Feb 9, 10, 11, really even 12 with the full moon, you are doing a couple things. I think that that square could help you uncover insights about technology or AI or social media, or you could just um, brainstorm new tech-centered solutions. But you should also prepare to either give, like deliver, or receive unpredictable information that compels you to pivot in some way. And around February 11th, the sun squares Uranus, with the sun representing CEOs, presidents, executives, leaders. There could be a major news story about a tech CEO, cryptocurrencies. There could just be an unexpected announcement about a president or a leader of some kind, or a leader could do something unexpected or unconventional. In the square to Uranus, yeah, it could coincide with insights about technology, UAPs, UFOs, drones, aviation, or again, tech CEOs. And maybe the drones situation in New Jersey could be elucidated. We might finally understand what was going on with those drones in New Jersey. Or maybe important documents could be declassified about UAPs or something else. And I do think there could be sudden movements with social media like TikTok or an AI platform. I think there's a new AI tool in China that's gaining popularity, gaining traction. There could be new social media platforms that gain in popularity. Or maybe the Supreme Court will go ahead and pursue a new case about another social media platform. Um, and then we also will have, I'll get to the full moon in a second, but in later February, we have Mercury conjunct Saturn, Feb 25. So now I'm going to go to that date. And that conjunction will, I think, relate to maybe, will bring about some somber reflections, maybe in places of isolation. But you could also focus on spirituality, mental health, and working towards creative accomplishments and creative writing. Um, but that day, Feb 25 and 24th and 26th, even, in a balsamic phase of the moon as well, you might feel a little dour, a little somber, a little pessimistic, but it is great time at the end of February to really go inward and meditate and reflect on, again, the things I just mentioned. So now I want to talk about the full moon. Well, actually, a couple other things before I do that. Remember that the nodal shift occurred in January, which is going to put an emphasis on the transits of Mercury for the South Node in Virgo and Jupiter and Neptune for the North Node in Pisces. So this month, with Mercury in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, we might be learning a lot about chronic health issues. We might realize certain things about chronic health, or there might be different decisions handed down about healthcare, especially in a legal context, actually during the Mercury Saturn conjunction. Like I actually think around Feb 25, there could be some legal deliberations about healthcare companies or pharmaceuticals. And there might be reports that are released about mental health or addictions or again, chronic issues. And there might be some studies released about long-term effects of things. And there's going to be a lot of decisions made regarding staffing of different healthcare agencies in the US with the Trump administration. They're going to be appointing a lot of healthcare related sort of positions, and maybe even pursuing like legal cases against prior, you know, healthcare appointees, something like that. And yeah, I also think that with the North Node in Pisces, the focus is on humanitarianism, faith, spirituality, and healing. And we might be again learning a lot more this month about the chronic effects of exposure to certain toxins or chemicals or pollutants. And we might be also realizing we might be learning about the effects of long-term effects of certain pharmaceuticals. With Venus and Aries, I do think a lot of people will be considering an entrepreneurial route, or reconsidering entrepreneurial endeavors. And also, by the way, people might be reflecting on the level of passion, especially physical intimacy in relationships. And again, if you're in a relationship and there's no physical passion left, then you might want to reevaluate that. And also, I think in general, people will be championing their own needs at certain points in relationships. Now, I want to mention the full moon and the new moon. So we have the Leo full moon. Let's go to that on February 12th. That's a big one. It's squaring Uranus. The Leo full moon, like any full moon, is a completion, an illumination, an epiphany, an ending, a release point. But as you release something else, you might begin another thing. So, in like a weird and direct way, full moons can be beginnings. And the full moon is squaring Uranus. The Uranus square to the sun and moon and Mercury makes this full moon very surprising, very shocking, very sudden, very seismic. So I do think there will be an earthquake around this full moon, to be honest with you. Not going to talk about where it is because I don't want to manifest it, but there could be an earthquake around this full moon. Also, major changes with technology, AI, innovation, social media platforms, sudden changes in a position relative to a world leader, with Leo being royalty. Maybe the royal family in the UK will announce something. Maybe even like a previous president will have something announced about him. That's a little shocking or scandalous. But I think the Leo full moon for you is a time where you can reach a milestone with a Leonic thing, like a creative endeavor. You could experience a sudden resurgence of romance, especially with Venus and Aries there. The full moon, though, is a little bit disconcerting because Mars is squaring Chiron still, so people could be feeling very impassioned and reckless and disgruntled. So make sure that you manage your emotions generally there. But I think the square to Uranus basically makes this a very unpredictable full moon. And you know, use this full moon. Well, I'll talk about how it pertains to each zodiac sign, but consider this full moon to be sort of a sudden spark, though, of passion and creativity. And maybe there's something community related that you do, or you go to a concert, or you collaborate with people in a more passionate way. And then the new moon in Pisces is February 27th at 4:44, by the way, Pacific. The new moon is a renewal, restoration, and in Pisces, we are initiating something in the Pisces house of our chart, and ideally initiating something that is creative, spiritual, healing related, reflective, meditative. And it is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. And it's actually happening after Mars is now direct, but right before Venus retrogrades. So it's kind of a confusing, complicated new moon, but you can Definitely begin something long term, professional, like professionally successful and long term because Mars trines Saturn. But with Venus about to retrograde, I do think that this could be the beginning of a healing process where you're healing a relationship or you are letting go of an old relationship or tying up loose ends with a relationship. And you might be very focused, though, on a writing project or, you know, a song or a creative, yeah, something creative, or you might be adopting a new spiritual practice at that time with Mercury conjunct Saturn and also sextile Uranus, though. So maybe there is something community related happening here for you. Maybe you are collaborating online or with a, yeah, social media group or something. But it does feel like one of those new moons where it's like a dichotomy or an oxymoron. It's like the beginning of the end of something. Or you are beginning to reflect on finances, relationships, creativity. But I'll again focus on the specifics for each sign in the next section. So before I go through the horoscopes, I want to reflect on what I've said about February. So, what is February all about? It is about continuing to re-strengthen ourselves with Mars retrograde, to find more effective ways to nurture ourselves, to maybe adjust our sleep cycles, to strengthen muscles that were previously weaker, to stand up for ourselves in a healthy way, to stand up for someone else, maybe, who is downtrodden, to take care of somebody who needs help, whether it be a friend, family member, and so on. To apply courage to a situation where we have to rescue someone or rescue an animal or whatever it is. This is an opportunity to demonstrate leadership in our families. This is also an opportunity to turn a place that used to be a source of conflict into a source of comfort, despite the fact that we've all probably experienced some tension in our homes, where a place that was once a source of comfort became a source of conflict. But now we're turning those tables back around to feel comfortable again. We're reflecting on this balancing act between helping someone, but not losing all of our energy to help somebody and not allowing someone to manipulate us. We are not allowing someone to play the victim card just to like get our attention. We are balancing the needs to heal in a relationship or heal someone else with the needs to preserve our own battery power and our own needs. We are um, potentially making inroads with technology or AI, or we are finding more innovative ways to be healthy. During this month, we are also reflecting on how to drive change in our communities and in our own world, in light of all the frenetic things that are happening out there, right? And we are ideally regaining though a passion in our relationships or in our jobs, actually. I think a lot of people are have lost their drive to work in their current role. And I think when Venus goes into Aries, disposited by Mars, retrograde in Cancer, we want to, again, find the mojo both in a relationship with physical intimacy, and we want to find that drive again to work and be productive at work. And if you're not passionate about your job anymore, use the Venus pre-shadow in Aries to go your own direction, pursue your own pathway as an entrepreneur, or to find a job where you are your authenticity is reigning and being honored in a different way. So, anyways, without further ado, let's dive into the horoscopes. There's a couple other things actually before I go into the horoscopes that I want to talk about. So first of all, with the Pisces stellium that we're seeing this month, with like Venus and Neptune and still like Saturn and eventually Mercury, plus Mars retrograde in Cancer, I think that some people could become avoidant with the Pisces energy, but then passive aggressive in a weird, annoying way with Mars retrograde in Cancer. So pay attention to that and avoid any passive aggressive behavior in relationships because that could become very insidious and corrosive to a relationship. So as Venus goes into Aries, make sure you're comfortable with confronting issues directly and head on. With Mars retrograde in Cancer, I think there's also going to be a lot of back and forth between the Trump administration and the sanctuary cities. And we've already seen some stories about this, but Mars retrograde in Cancer, as I said earlier, deals a lot with standing up for people who are either being or who standing up for people who are being put in danger. And we've seen how like ICE agents have gone into like places like Chicago to try to detain people who are supposedly here illegally, only for the people in that environment to try to block those efforts. So I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth there continually. The Venus Neptune North Node conjunction could bring about a soulmate type of relationship for some people. I think some people could meet their soulmate actually when Venus Neptune and the North Node align. But also that juxtaposition I mean that alignment is, I think, partly supporting the ceasefire efforts in the Middle East. So hopefully the ceasefire efforts can continue to be successful. I do worry, though, about the Mars retrograde square Chiron. I wonder if there's some, again, either petty or passive aggressive behavior that, creates chaos all over again. But remember, by the way, before I get into the horoscopes, now I'm going to go into the next section, but remember that the full details about 2025 are in my 2025 horoscope videos, which are still available on my website, linked down below. So those videos cover every new and full moon for the year. So while I appreciate you watching this video on YouTube, just know that like all the insights for the lunation cycles in 2025 are already available on my website, and thanks to the 10,000 of you who have already downloaded one of those videos. So yeah, let's start with Aries. We'll go through Aries through Pisces. As always, refer to your rising sign first, but then also track your sun and moon. So let's share the screen here. And let's get back to Aries, obviously. So I'm just gonna like, adjust, the chart to get each rising sign. And remember though that you obviously want to adjust for your local time zone and whatnot. But yeah, so the Leo full moon we're gonna start off with for Aries. This is in your fifth house of creativity, romance, and the inner child. The fifth house actually does pertain to children as well. But for Aries, the full moon here on February 12th is the culmination of potentially something creative that you've been doing. This could lead you to an epiphany about something you want to do creatively going forward. This could be the end of a casual relationship that has no long-term potential. This could also just be a exciting, passionate situation on a date. And the ruling planet of the full moon is the sun in the 11th house there. So some of you could be going to a concert in the 11th house or really bringing something creative into a social media context or other group contexts or digital context. You have Venus in your first house at this time, pre-shadow. So you are, number one, probably experiencing some positives with relationships and creativity, although you are also likely retracing some situations and steps with past relationships, maybe, or maybe some people from the past are starting to come back, or you're starting to think about them, or you're starting to revisit your value system generally, maybe your financial situation, even. Mars retrogrades in your fourth house still at that time, so you may be navigating some conflict in your home or your family life. Jupiter is direct in your third house, though, so this can help you capture new opportunities with communication, writing, teaching, education, neighbors, and siblings. Saturn is in your 12th house still with Neptune in the North Node, so you are hyper focused on your spiritual growth alongside all of this. But I think this full moon, with the square to Uranus, is also potentially illuminating an opportunity to monetize something you're doing creatively, or maybe yeah, you are launching something creative, completing something creative that can help you gain a lot more ground in terms of wealth. Or maybe suddenly you change your value system with Uranus in the second. But really, that T square to Uranus from the sun and moon and Mercury is the defining aspect of this full moon. So I think that a lot of Aries could experience a sudden values change that, compels them to leave a casual relationship. Or again, there could even be a there could even be a community here or a friend that helps you realize that there's a different way to make money, or maybe you make money through your social media efforts in the 11th house. But now I want to just show you the new moon on Feb 27 as it pertains to Aries. And then for the other signs, I'm actually going to just focus on, or I'm going to focus on both moons, but I'm going to just keep it fixed to the Leo full moon. But the Pisces new moon for Aries is in the 12th house. And the Pisces new moon in the 12th house could be the initiation or beginning of a new spiritual practice, uh, spiritual perspective, creative sort of effort. It could bring about changes to your sleep cycle. There could just be like a dream that you have on that new moon that's very powerful and initiatory for you. But I think it will put the focus on, the need for some time alone, some solitude to tend to any mental health challenges or to rejuvenate and restore your strength. It's a very reflective new moon. There's not necessarily a lot happening there for Aries, although Venus is in your first house, about to station retrograde. So if this is a huge moment for you, it would actually be the beginning of a look back at a previous relationship, potentially, or honestly, for some of you, a relationship from a past life could come in. Um, but I think for a lot of you, you're actually more likely separating and cutting off contact with somebody with Mercury and Saturn in the 12th. Or you're just taking some time, like I said, taking some time alone and away from a relationship to reflect on it so that you know what to do about the relationship after the retrograde is over. With Mars now direct in the fourth house, hopefully you can start to resolve conflict, like I said earlier, within your family, and you feel confident in your resolution of those conflicts. Um, yeah, and I just think that the Venus retrograde is the defining moment for the first like quarter or even the first third of your year. I mean, with Venus there about to go backwards in your first, I think that you are in a very pensive, reflective, contemplative mood here. You are reviewing relationships, creative projects, values, money. The beginning of the year for Aries, to me, looks kind of slow. I mean, that's fine, but don't like you gain more momentum this month by taking some time to recharge, taking some time to be in some state of solitude. But in that state of solitude, within that cocoon, you can discover these brilliant insights about something spiritual, creative, or you could actually work through and resolve karma that spans lifetimes, right? So I think the Leo full moon though is really nice for you though. I don't want to like take anything away from this. I don't want to de-emphasize it. Like the Leo full moon is giving you this like supercharged creative or romantic moment, and this Pisces new moon could give you a new way to approach your health in general. You have got the South Node in your sixth house, right? So you are potentially rethinking your routines in a certain way and health practices. So now we're going to advance to the sign of Taurus. And again, for Taurus, in the next other 11 signs, I'm not going to be depicting the Pisces new moon. I will just be talking about it after the Leo full moon. So Taurus, the well, let me back up actually before I get into that. I mean, I don't know if I did the Aries forecast justice yet, because remember that Uranus is now direct in your second house for the all the way until it gets into Gemini there. So Uranus direct in Taurus is giving you again access to this. It's helping you accelerate in your journey towards making money on your own terms. So like if you're in Aries, use this Uranus energy to find more unique ways to make money, to, activate your natural talents in your job. So I think that for Aries, you're entering a period where hopefully you finally feel like you, instead of chasing stability, in a monetary sense, in chasing stability by holding on to the past ways of making money, like it's kind of like the energy of like, don't try to hold on to a job you've had for the last 6 years, or don't try to hold on to a monetization strategy you've had for the past few years. Instead, you will gain more wealth and gain more ground by taking a different approach, right? So let's go into Taurus. So for Taurus, the full moon in Leo is activating your fourth house of home, family, property, caregiving. And the Leo full moon is a big deal for the fixed signs. And this is because they're activating your angular houses, and Uranus is stationing direct in one of your angular houses as well. So for Tauruses, the Leo full moon on February 12th could be a time where you either decide to move homes, or you decide to take a different approach to your family or the caregiving process, or maybe you enliven your home environment in a different way, or you host people at your home, or you have an emotional type of connection with a family member. And because the sun rules the full moon in Leo, and the sun is in the 10th house, you could be adopting a new perspective on your job at the same time, or parenting, or authority roles. And some of you could be, you know, moving for a new job, or moving and getting a new job, or with Uranus stationing direct, and the full moon squaring Uranus in the first house. I think that you are just reimagining many different aspects of your life, and pushing forward in a more innovative way, creative way, experimental way, authentic way. So you are basically making changes to all the major pillars of your life, your home, your family, your career, in order to let the authentic you resonate and shine through. And like I said for Aries, and like all the other signs, you have to embrace instability to a certain degree. And especially for Tauruses, you have to just accept that change is the constant going forward. But that Uranus will be leaving your sign by July, at least temporarily. And, any sudden, unpredictable changes that happen in the next few months are for the better. It's like a master class in flowing with the change. But that will all filter through the lens of your home, family, property, parenting style, and your career during this full moon. We also have Venus in your 12th house, so you are reflecting on maybe past life relationships, or experiencing karma in relationships, feeling maybe, well, I mean, you could be in the 12th house seeking a relationship that helps you well, you could be letting go of some things that were previously causing discord in your relationships. Or you might be accessing energy in a relationship that helps you feel unified with like a divine being. And then with Mars still retrograde in the third house, the key there is to avoid useless debates, but still invest in learning, and sifting through data and information. And maybe you are driving around a lot, but don't drive around so much that you exhaust yourself. So evaluate your commute. If you're a Taurus, you might be driving too much. And then Jupiter is now direct in the second house, so I think that's wonderful for you. You could start to realize greater gains with money, earnings, salary, possessions. Or you might have a better perspective on just your natural abilities. By the time of the Pisces new moon at the end of the month, you are initiating something new in your 11th house of groups and communities. You will have a lot of planets in your 11th house at that time. So the new moon in the 11th could help you start a new friendship, join a new network or community, begin a new project on social media, maybe even enter into politics or something innovative. Also, with that new moon, You could show greater compassion for a friendship. You could forgive a friend. You could enter into greater unity within a community. Venus will be on the verge of retrograding in the 12th house, so you are definitely more so than almost any sign looking backwards at relationships generally. You're very reflective about them. You are reflecting on any unresolved karma in relationships. You could be dreaming about exes a lot with that 12th house of dreams. And if you have any unresolved karma with a partner that, you might start to seek to resolve that. But as a Taurus, you want to avoid nostalgia. Avoid nostalgia because Venus in the 12th retrograde, I think it can make people feel very, well, people might be yearning for the past, a past that is no longer attainable. So use that more so for forgiveness, unity, and maybe even the exploration of unfinished creative projects. And definitely as a Taurus, avoid lying or deception in a relationship there. If you've been manipulating a partner or lying to them, then you might experience a bit of a karmic undoing during that time when it retrogrades. Mars will be direct in the third by that point, so you are really putting a lot of energy into learning, sifting through information, potentially debating, arguing, and so on. But really, this is the beginning of a new community or friendship, most likely. For Geminis, the full moon in Leo, February 12th, is in your third house, and that is bringing a lot of emotion into your conversations, your daily happenings, your daily well, something big could even happen with your something transportation related or your daily commute. You could just have an emotionally charged conversation. You might experience a change with a neighbor or a sibling. You could complete an educational pursuit, a book, a writing project. You might just communicate something emotionally. You might complete an analysis of something. You could return from a trip, like a road trip or a short trip of some kind. You could just have a different perspective on your siblings or relatives. The sun rules the full moon in the ninth house, so at the same time, you might even be still planning to travel long distance in the future. You might be gaining new insights in a higher educational context. You might be seeking to publish something or complete a publishing process. This is all squaring Uranus, which has station direct in your 12th house, and Uranus stationing in the 12th and moving forward in the 12th now is a time where you could be accelerating your spiritual growth, accelerating your insights spiritually. You could be having these sort of mystifying connections with the spirit realm. Some of you might be just generating these amazing epiphanies through your dreams, through your meditations. This is a very vague, abstract full moon for you. I mean, I think a lot of you are actually just having these very interesting, ineluctable sorts of yeah, conversations or epiphanies or insights. Like you're grasping, you're trying to grasp something that is undefinable or inexplicable at this time. And maybe having conversations with like spirits or something from the other side. But others, again, might be doing the things I mentioned with communication. Venus is in the 11th, so it is a social time, but you might be reconvening with friends or networks from your past with Venus, pre-shadow in the 11th. Sorry, I have to adjust my software. So with Venus still not retrograde, but pre-shadow in the 11th, some of you might just be like seeing old friends here and there, witnessing an ex through social media. Mars is retrograde in the second. So you are reflecting on different ways to maybe stand up for your values or advocate for a better salary. Jupiter is direct now in your first house. So I think Geminis, you're starting to feel good, like you can travel further, reach further for new opportunities, and feel more abundant and optimistic. Then the Pisces new moon, Feb 27, is in your 10th house of career, parenting, authorities. So the Pisces new moon is a bigger deal for you by a mile. Pisces new moon could be the beginning of a new career path, a new approach to your career, a new responsibility, a new perspective on your career. You could basically come into a new reputation publicly, and also um, you could just be setting a new career goal. Some of you are becoming parents or something, and then Venus will be just about to retrograde in your 11th, so starting to reassess your values within friendships and communities, reflecting on the way you approach social media, the way you monetize it potentially, and Mars will be direct in your second at that time. So I think that like you are really gaining momentum in your career by the time of the Pisces new moon, and any professional efforts are paying off for you. I think with like they are lucrative, or maybe you're making more money with something in your career because Mars is trining Saturn from the second house. So it's a wonderful new beginning in your career for Gemini. Cancer is the Leo full moon on February 12th is in your second house of money, natural talents, and salary, possessions, self-worth. So Leo full moon in the second house could be a sudden change for Cancers with their salary, their monetary or their money, their income. Some Cancers might reach a financial objective or change up their possessions. They may experience a bit of a transition with their values and their value system. And the ruling planet of the full moon is in the eighth house. So I think a lot of Cancers are actually continuing to sort through finances, inheritances, potentially investments, because the Aquarius new moon was in their eighth house. And like a lot of these energies are squaring Uranus. With Uranus in the 11th, you might join in a different community, join up with a different community, take a very different approach to your social media, form a new friendship that's very strategic for you. Um, this is a good time for you to tap into your network. But yeah, I think that there are just changing investments for you, changes in possessions, and any success that you find during this time monetarily is, I think, it's the result of any electrifying changes in your communities. And as a Cancer, remember that Uranus in the 11th is actually an accidental dignity because Uranus rules Aquarius and the 11th house is associated with Aquarius. So as a Cancer, February is a time where you're continuing to innovate and join up with new groups or communities to potentially go viral on social media. So unexpected things can happen for you in communities and on social media that either help you reach a financial goal, or a friendship could help you, or a friend could help you realize that you actually hold different values now. Venus is in the 10th, so you could be experiencing positivity in your career, although I think a lot of Cancers are still dealing with a lot of frustration in February because Mars is retrograde in your sign. So a lot of Cancers, you're exhausted, you're depleted, but hopefully Venus in the 10th, eventually when it retrogrades there, is going to help you reconnect with someone who's professionally helpful to you. Or you're just doing something more creative in your job. Jupiter is now direct in your 12th, so you're gaining a broader awareness of your spiritual path. And then we have a Pisces new moon in your ninth house, February 27th. The Pisces new moon at the end of the month could mark the initiation of a long distance trip, a publishing opportunity or effort. Maybe you're starting to teach people, maybe you're starting to learn something new or take a class. Maybe you are adopting a new perspective. And it is squaring Jupiter, by the way, that new moon. So you could teach about spirituality, or you could yeah, I mean, with that square to Jupiter, you could become more confident to become a teacher or to pursue a publishing opportunity of some kind. By the time of that Pisces new moon, we do have Mars direct. in your first house. So I think that you feel less frustrated than you did in the beginning of the month. You feel stronger. You also maybe have worked out any tension within your family with that Mars Chiron square. And you can stand up either for a family member or stand up within your family. And you just feel rejuvenated, or you're starting to feel stronger and more confident. So that's good. We have the Leo full moon for Leos in the first house on February 12th, and naturally a full moon in your sign is very cathartic, emotional, probably a sleepless night, but it is also a time where you gain intuitive clarity on a range of things, and it is a helpful time to let go of something. So for Leos, you could let go of whatever you want, a relationship, a job, a habit, a perception. With the square to Uranus in the 10th, you are probably making a hard pivot in your career and reconceptualizing your career or your parenting style or what it means to be a parent. Leos, you are maybe taking greater care of your home or something or of somebody. As a Leo, you might be able to articulate your emotions in a clearer way. And some of you are just going to be reacting to something unexpected in your life in any of these areas, to be honest. But with the sun ruling the full moon and the sun ruling your chart in the seventh house, I think a lot of you are focused on relationships at this time. And some of you might even change up a business partnership or relationship in order to further or accelerate your career or take it in a different direction. Venus in the ninth is putting the focus on higher education, maybe, or investing in travels. A lot of you are probably investing in travel, like traveling at that time. Jupiter is now direct in the 11th, so you are gaining broader perspectives and opportunities on friendships or communities or social media efforts. Mars is still retrograde in the 12th, so Leos, you are probably more tired and enervated than any other sign. You've probably lost a lot of sleep lately with Mars retrograde in the 12th, but you have to adjust your sleep cycle right now. That's how you regain your energy. And some Leos are beginning to revisit their educational decisions with Venus retrograde, or eventually retrograding in the ninth. And Leos, you might be having some trippy dreams right now and talking in your sleep. And honestly, some of your dreams might even be kind of aggressive and violent, but just get sleep, fall asleep at different times. I think that will help. Take naps as well. The Pisces new moon, February 27th, is in your eighth house of investing, financing, shadow work. And the new moon there could point the way towards a new investing approach. You could start a business at that time, even. You could tackle debt. You could, again, perform shadow work, investigate your shadow side, your subconscious, your triggers. And, it is squaring Jupiter in the 11th. Maybe a friend or a community member or a social media post could give you greater perspective on the shadow work that you'd like to do or your investing strategy. Neptune also rules the full moon, or sorry, new moon in the eighth house. So I don't know. I just think for Leos, your intuition is flowing in the end of the month. Venus is about to station retrograde in the ninth, so some of you might be reconsidering certain long distance trips or travels. And Mars will be direct in the 12th by the end of the month. So hopefully you have a firmer grasp of like your sleep cycle and you have avoided deleterious habits that have a corrosive effect on your fitness. So as a Leo, if you've taken a break from working out or fitness stuff, I think you're starting to get back into it by the end of the month. Now we go to Virgos. Virgos, you have the Leo full moon February 12th in your 12th house of dreams, past life karma, spirituality, the womb, liminal spaces, endings, letting go. So the full moon in the 12th is a time to do all kinds of release rituals, I think, in isolated settings. Just relax. Relax on that full moon. Let things go. Focus on mental well-being, mental health, focus on spiritual practices, and don't try to do too much on this full moon. Again, experience that catharsis, letting go of old emotions, discard anything you don't need anymore, and reflect on, anything that you've held on to way too tightly. Like this is opening a window for you to purge that. With the sun in the sixth, you are focusing on even physical health, fitness, and better approaches to that. Venus in a pre-shadow phase in the eighth house. So part of your efforts are going towards investing and financing, but you might be reflecting on and focusing on any shared possessions with a partner and different ways to arrange that and whatnot. Mars is retrograde in the 11th, so you might be experiencing some exhaustion within friendships or communities. And I think that you just want to address those, navigate conflict within communities more effectively. And with Mars retrograde there, don't lose your energy and don't drain yourself by getting wrapped up and mired in conflicts on social media. Jupiter is now direct in the 10th, so you can definitely start to gain greater opportunities in your career nowadays. The full moon is squaring Uranus in the ninth, so some of you might decide that you do or don't want to travel somewhere long distance. But I think for most of you, this is a new perspective that you're gaining through your meditations. Although some of you might change your mind about a long distance trip, absolutely. And then we have the Pisces new moon, though, on February 27th. This is a much bigger deal. This is in your seventh house of partnership. So some of you are starting a new relationship at the end of the month, or you are beginning to look backwards at an old relationship because Venus is about to station retrograde and go back into Pisces. So as a Virgo, you might be feeling some amount of pressure to make a critical decision about a long-term business partnership, friendship, or romantic partnership. And you also, though, during the new moon in Pisces, probably are focused continually on financing, investing, and shared possessions, meaning the new moon in Pisces is an opportunity to redefine a business partnership if you want to, and to redefine it in a way that adds coherence to the shared possessions and investments and just shared finances of your business or of that partnership. Mars will also be direct in the 11th house by then, trining Saturn in the 7th, so you could find productive connections within your network. Libra, the full moon in Leo, is in your 11th house of communities, friendships, social media, and politics. So Libras, you could be concluding a friendship during that full moon, Feb 12. You could be just experiencing a creative moment with a friend or community. You could be going to a concert. You could even be performing at a concert. You could be reaching a milestone on social media. You could be experiencing this emotional state of ecstasy with a friend. You could also be, yeah, celebrating something creative. The sun is in the fifth at this time. Mercury's in the fifth, squaring Uranus in the eighth. You could, you know, I don't know, in a weird way, do some shadow work through the experience of something creative. You could gain a lot more passive income or money through something creative that you're doing. You could adopt, I mean, there could be a subconscious breakthrough somehow through the lens of like a casual relationship. Um, Also, Mars is retrograde though in the 10th house. So some of you are experiencing exhaustion or impatience or frustration with a parent or with your career. I would not make any impulsive decisions within your career at this time. Jupiter's direct in the ninth. So maybe you're gaining more ground and opportunity with publishing or travel opportunities, yeah. With Saturn and Neptune North Node in the sixth, you are continuing to discipline yourself and finesse your health routines. Venus is in the seventh house. So I think a lot of you, though, are focused on significant relationship. You're trying to either strengthen a committed relationship that you already have or find a relationship. But some of those relationships might be from the past. And I'm not going to lie, if you're in a relationship right now, you might be experiencing a bit of a slowdown in momentum with that relationship or reconsidering it. That's just natural because Venus is preparing to retrograde in the seventh. So, like for Libras, you're either trying to find a way to save your relationship by preserving the sense of autonomy and identity in that relationship, or you're reflecting on how you can find a relationship that like has a lot of excitement and passion and preserves, your individuality. Now we also have the Pisces new moon on February 27th in the sixth house of, health and work and routine. So the Pisces new moon in the sixth house is really a great time for Libras to kind of tap into a new routine, a new daily regimen, fitness regimen, a new, yeah, like anything that like promotes good health, to potentially start a new job, new work project, to work with new coworkers. I think that, those are all opportunities for you. Also, you could like start to work towards something that demands a consistent routine, like a marathon or you know, yeah, some kind of competition, like health or fitness competition. And then by that new moon, Venus is about to station retrograde in the seventh house. So for a lot of Libras, I think that you are committing to a new form of excellence, either at work or in a health context, or in a relationship context where you're setting higher standards in a relationship, such that if someone is not meeting those standards, the relationship will probably end shortly thereafter, or your partner or future partner is willing to meet those standards and you just find a better relationship or you improve your existing relationship. So I think that's really what's happening for Libras. Mars will be direct by that time in your 10th house, so you're feeling strong and capable of demonstrating leadership at work, or maybe some of you will even begin an entrepreneurial path with Mars trine Saturn and Mars being in the 10th. Now Scorpios, we have the full moon in Leo, February 12th in your 10th house of career, parenting, authority, responsibilities, and the full moon in the 10th is a big deal for you. This could be a transition that you make towards a different type of career, a different line of work. Maybe you start to take on completely different roles and responsibilities in your career. You could gain visibility in your career, especially through something creative and leonic. Also, some of you might announce that you're becoming a parent or take on a different type of parenting role, or you could experience some kind of emotional connection with your parent. The sun rules the full moon in the fourth, so some of you are reconsidering still where you want to live. Um, some of you are looking, yeah, to move, relocate, or you are just connecting with family in a different way. Mars is retrograde in the ninth. So some of you are traveling too often, and so you've maybe been taking a break, or you are considering different ways to put your energy into your teaching or educational or publishing pursuits. Jupiter is direct in the eighth, so you have new opportunities to monetize, well, not monetize, just you're getting new opportunities to gain passive income, I guess, or to grow your investments. And with Gemini being writing, maybe you're monetizing a publishing efforts. And the full moon, by the way, is squaring Uranus in the seventh. So there could be some disruptions in your partnerships, or you are partnering with someone who is helping you further your career goals, or you are just reimagining or reinventing your creative, or sorry, your relationships. I mean, I didn't mention this for Libras actually, or not fully, but Libras, you could reimagine your passive income sources or reimagine your investment efforts, which could be great. But every sign technically might have to contend with something unpredictable with Uranus, right? So Scorpios, I mean, you could reinvent your relationships for the better or experience an unexpected shock in a relationship. Venus is in the sixth, so you are strengthening yourself, you're balancing out your lifestyle, and maybe reconnecting with old coworkers, or even picking back up some old health habits. Then we have the Pisces new moon, February 27th, in the fifth house of creativity, romance, children, and the inner child. And the new moon in the fifth could help you launch a new creative effort. You could be announcing something related to starting a family. Maybe you are starting a new casual relationship, romantic relationship, and it is squaring Jupiter in the eighth. So any new creative efforts that you put forth could help you generate passive income, and could help grow your investments. You might start to just get perspective on your investments still during that time. Mars will be direct in the ninth, so you could feel empowered to travel more often, expand, be more mobile. Venus is about to station retrograde in the sixth, so you are starting to fully reflect on co-working relationships that you maybe left behind. Maybe you are reflecting and reconsidering your health related values. You might be, yeah, reconsidering adopting an old health routine in order to maintain that harmonious Venusian lifestyle. And, I think though, with a lot of energy in the fifth house, it should be the launch point for something creative or romantic or something that helps you rekindle the inner child. Um, and I don't think Venus in the sixth has to be bad. I don't think it's like the most, you know, uh, significant Venus retrograde transit. I think that for a lot of you, it's like a time to just like revisit more harmonious sort of and balanced lifestyles that, again, promote good health. And now we go to Sag. The full moon in Leo for Sagittarius is in the ninth house, February 12th. And this is really, the completion maybe of a long distance trip, maybe the reconsideration of a long distance trip. You could complete an educational course. You could realize that you want to become a teacher, educator. You might reach a milestone with publishing or marketing efforts. You might just arrive at a new perspective or worldview. You might, have a philosophical sort of change of, well, just change in mindset. And the ruling planet of the full moon is the sun in the third house. So it's a very communicative, educational time. Maybe you are commuting a lot. It is squaring off with Uranus in the sixth. So a lot of you, though, are gaining specifically perspective on health. Maybe you suddenly change your diet or your exercise plan, or you suddenly realize that you have to take a different health approach. And you might be gaining new skills that you can apply to your job. It's actually a good time for Sages to investigate AI and tech and new tech tools in order to streamline something with your job. Mars is retrograde in the eighth, so some of you are fighting over possessions or assets within family, especially. But I think for a lot of Sages, you are actually introducing more agility and flexibility to your daily work process. Jupiter is now direct in the seventh, so you can experience greater opportunities within relationships. And maybe you either know finally who the type of person you want to be with, or you start to experience greater luck in relationships, greater serendipity, right place, right time. Venus is in a pre-shadow phase in the fifth house during this time, so you might be reconvening with old romantic flings, or you might be revisiting unfinished creative projects or just reassessing your values as it applies to your creativity or your romantic life. Um, and then we have the Pisces new moon at the end of the month, February 27th in the fourth house. This is a great time for Sagittariuses to consider moving, relocating, adopting a new dynamic within family, maybe forgiving a family member, having a conversation with a family member, taking new responsibilities within the family. Um, and it is scoring Jupiter in the seventh, so you might feel as though your partner is playing a more helpful role in your family or something. Although you might feel as though conversations or activities with your partner are taking away from family responsibilities because it is a square. Venus will be on the verge of retrograding in the fifth, so you are reflecting on values within, well, within your relationships, but you might be reflecting on, old romantic flings, like I said, by that time, or really looking to finish unfinished creative projects. But Mars is direct in the eighth at that time. So you are more confidently negotiating anything within family as it concerns investments or shared assets or debt, and you are hopefully resolving any financial disputes by that time. Capricorn, you have the Leo full moon in your eighth house on February 12th. This could be the realization of a financial or investing milestone. You could suddenly experience an epiphany from within your shadows or your subconscious. You might decide to, well, you might experience a bit of a change with physical intimacy or something. You might have an alchemical connection with somebody. But I think for a lot of you, this is about recalibrating finances and investing, making changes and tweaks to shared assets with a partner. The sun rules the full moon in the second house of money. So, maybe you recently got a new salary or income on the Aquarius new moon and you're making changes in your investments, and accordingly, you can reach a new milestone with your passive income. And this is all squaring off with Uranus in the fifth. So, Uranus in the fifth there could help you find a different way to generate passive income with your creativity. You might suddenly change your stance on your romantic life, your romantic pursuits. And Mars is retrograde in the seventh. I mean, that's kind of tough. You might be navigating conflict in a relationship or with people one on one. You might feel a little bit frustrated with romance or with a relationship. You might feel as though, well, you might be a little bit impatient with your partner. So practice patience and grace with your partner if you have one. Otherwise, you're feeling a little bit frustrated with the fact that you don't have a partner right now. But just give that time. Some of you are working out tension within a family or with a parent because it's squaring Chiron in the fourth. And some of you might have to navigate family issues related to an inheritance. Venus is in the fourth in a pre-shadow phase. So, yeah, you might be reflecting, though, on better strategies to harmonize with a family member. Like you might be just discovering better techniques to balance out and be more diplomatic with family. Jupiter is direct in the sixth. So you probably have greater perspectives now on your health and maybe productivity at work, and maybe you're just having more enlightening conversations with coworkers. The Pisces new moon, February 27th, is in the third house of communication, traveling, siblings, skills, education, writing. So, oh, sorry, didn't mean to put the emojis right there. So the Pisces new moon is a great time for you to launch a new writing project, to start writing something, especially creatively, to have an important conversation with somebody, to start picking up new skills, to start a new educational track, to start learning something new, to start a new commute. And it is squaring Jupiter in the sixth. So I think that for Capricorns, actually, you might be gaining new skills that actually help you succeed on the job. Um, or you're just gaining further knowledge about your health. Mars is direct in the seventh, so hopefully you feel more assertive, but in a healthy way in your relationships. And Venus is about to retrograde in the fourth, so some of you are beginning to, again, develop that. I think you are reflecting on ways to smooth out any tense relations within the family, or you might be reassessing and reconsidering your values in the context of your family. And I think a lot of you, though, are reconsidering whether or not to invest in a home or a property, or you might be refinancing, something with your mortgage. I mean, a lot of Capricorns are reconsidering their home investments or any family related like spending or something like that. And I would say with that, wait until after Venus retrograde to make any like enormous decisions with property and family, like or family related kind of spending or financing. So no Aquarius, Aquarius, you have the full moon in Leo, February 12th in your seventh house of partnership and commitment. So it's a huge deal for you. The full moon in the seventh for Aquarius could be the end of a relationship or an emotional epiphany about a partner or a relationship, a moment of emotional unification with a partner. You could release emotions and bond with a partner. It doesn't have to be the end of a partnership. You could realize something about your partner or realize that you want to relocate with a partner or live somewhere else with a partner. I say this because it squares Uranus in the fourth. So some of you might experience disruption within your family, your home, or something, but it, that disruption could affect your relationship, but also some of you might, I don't know, I think a lot of you hopefully are just arriving at some kind of epiphany about your relationship through the lens of your family. Like maybe you're having a conversation with your family or at your house in the fourth house, and it just helps you change your entire perspective on your relationship, hopefully in a good way. The Sun and Mercury are in your first house, so I think you're feeling very communicative. So I think you can articulate any issues that you may have in a relationship at that time. Jupiter is direct in the fifth, so even if you're not in a relationship, you are experiencing greater success with creativity and romance and casual relationships. So, if you're single, consider that to be a time where you could have greater luck and success with again, in a romantic setting. So there is still opportunity for you to find maybe a more casual partner that maybe eventually becomes a committed partner, or you're just starting to experience more abundance and success in a creative atmosphere. Mars is retrograde in the sixth, so continue to strengthen your body, invest in your fitness regimen, but don't overdo it or overstrain yourself. But I do think you have to strengthen your physical body right now as an Aquarius, because you really have to focus on health, I think, with Mars retrograde in the sixth, but specifically strength training. Um, Venus is pre-shadow in the third, so some of you are, I don't know, relating with either a sibling or a neighbor that you haven't talked to in a while, or you are reconsidering your values in all kinds of ways, or you are, um, you know, maybe reassessing the opportunity to with a writing project or a communication project. But I think a lot of you are starting to, again, reflect on relationships in third house contexts. So either reflect on spending on transportation or your commute, or reflect on how you relate with siblings, neighbors, or relatives, or reflecting on the way that you pursue conversations and socialize with others, reflecting on your educational spending, or I don't know, something like that. Now we go to the Pisces new moon, February 27th, in the second house of money, salary, possessions, self-worth. So this could be the Pisces new moon, could be the initiation of a new salary, new source of income, a new job. And I think with Aquarius having the North Node in the second, you are starting ideally to pursue a line of work that is more creative or just it's making greater use of your natural abilities. It is squaring Jupiter in the fifth, so maybe if you get a new job, it is more creative or it's drawing upon your creative talents. Um, also here you could just arrive at a new notion of like, or a new sense of self-worth. You could start to advocate for yourself in a different way. Mars is direct in the sixth at that time, so you've fully evaluated the proper way to strengthen yourself, and you are continuing to go to the gym or lift weights or strengthen yourself in different ways. Venus is about to retrograde in the third, so you are, again, reevaluating spending on transportation or education or books, or you are reevaluating your relationship with siblings, neighbors, or reconsidering different skills that you might need in order to further your career or financial success. Now we go to Pisces. You have the Leo full moon February 12th in your sixth house of health, co-working, routines, pets. The full moon in the sixth house could help you experience, well, it could be like a revelation about, your health. It could be the completion well, it could be the milestone that you reach with like a fitness routine. Like maybe you know, reach a health or fitness milestone. Maybe you transition into a different, you know, uh, you transition to a different work project. Maybe you start working with different coworkers. Maybe you just have a different perspective on health, and it is squaring Uranus in the third. So you might be responding to maybe not an unpredictable event, but maybe you start to unlock new insights or new intellectual breakthroughs, or you start to attain new skills, or you start to change up your commute or something. I don't know, but like I think you are starting to gain totally new insights and you're somehow funneling that into your work process or your routine. Like ideally, you are just gaining all kinds of new sources of information that are helping you improve your health or improve your work process. Like this is actually a great full moon for applying new technological insights to improve your work or improve your health. Like maybe you're using like a smartwatch to track your health differently, or maybe you are learning how to use AI to work more efficiently. Or maybe you're changing up your work routine to carve out more time to use Uranus in the third to like do automatic writing or channeled writing or leave more time to write your book. I think a lot of Pisces are still writing their book. Um, or maybe you're just changing up your commute, you know, and just working differently at different times. Mars is retrograde in the fifth, so some of you are experiencing some disputes within family, or maybe with your children, or conflict with your children, or maybe you are experiencing conflict with collaborators in a creative context, or you're fighting with a casual relationship or partner. I think hopefully you're just learning how to, you know, assert your needs in a creative context or with a casual partner. Um, Venus is pre-shadow in the second house, so you are revisiting your financial objectives, revisiting, reassessing whether your salary is sufficient, reviewing your personal values in a relationship, or how it applies to a relationship. I think a lot of Pisces are reconsidering whether or not their values are aligned with their friends, their romantic partner, or their business partner. But I think at the beginning of the month, a lot of Pisces are reevaluating health in all senses of the word, spiritual, mental, physical. And reconfiguring their routines so that they can start writing a lot more. I think a lot of you are writing, the writing is flowing in, the insights are flowing in, or you are just discovering just so many new insights about anything, science, spirituality, and so on. We also have Jupiter direct in the fourth house. So your family life is ideally becoming more coherent, and your home life is a source of learning and opportunity and wisdom and less chaotic. Now, the Pisces new moon at the end of the month is a huge, huge deal for you because it is the beginning of potentially a new job, a new sense of self, a new identity, a new relationship, or you are just resetting the tone generally, like just setting a new energetic tone in your life. And Venus is about to retrograde by that time and eventually go back into your second house, or sorry, first house. So you are on the precipice of a Venus retrograde in your sign that will really test your relationships of all kinds. Like it will pressure test your relationships. If your relationships, friendships, business partnerships, romantic relationships, if they are not long term, if they are not viable long term, that will be revealed to you in March and April. And the Pisces new moon this month is a chance for you to convey your authentic identity and send out an authentic vibration such that all of these relationships in your life have no choice but to stay or go based on whether or not they resonate with that authentic you. So you have to put the ball in your court. You have to convey that authentic self so that the relationships fall into place. So that even if they fall apart, they are still supporting your evolution by falling apart. And also, the new moon there, I think could be the initiation of a new creative project, spiritual pursuit. And with Venus retrograding in the second house, first and foremost, maybe you're reflecting on your personal values and how that relates to relationships, or you are reflecting on your financial objectives and, the sort of any monetization efforts. And Mars will be direct in your fifth by that time, so I think you have the tools to assert yourself confidently in those creative settings or to advocate for your needs in a casual partnership. So overall, February is a month where I think we are all navigating some petty behaviors by people around us who are arbitrarily putting themselves on a pedestal to feel good. We are navigating passive aggressive behavior, among others. And hopefully, we are not the ones propagating that. In February, we are discovering new technological tools to streamline our work process. And maybe we are even arriving at as a society, at new medical innovations and inventions. I think we are also learning to balance our desire to unify through a relationship, also with our desire to preserve independence. I also believe that we are all continuing to become more accustomed to unpredictability and sudden changes and rolling with that change. And as we ride those waves, we transcend and ascend towards our, highest timeline. We are learning to more confidently demonstrate leadership in our families, within our maybe home environments, with roommates, with maybe even landlords or something. We are adjusting our sleep schedules and making adjustments in order to balance out any hormonal changes we may have experienced while Mars is retrograde in Cancer. So we have to ebb and flow a little bit differently with the tides in order to regain our energy. We are hopefully sustaining our mojo and libido in our romantic relationships so that they don't languish while Mars is retrograde in its fallen sign, squaring Chiron and Aries, which can be insecure. We are maintaining our sense of uh, well, we were able to assert our needs or desires and convey our desires in a relationship such that the relationship maintains a passion and a spark so that it does not languish. And we are forgiving, healing, coalescing around humanitarian pursuits, and generating creative and spiritual breakthroughs that make us feel like we are part of something greater. Thank you so much. I'm Evan Nathaniel Grimm. If you want the full details on 2025, again, I would urge you to download the 2025 horoscopes. Also, subscribe to my newsletter, which contains manifestation tips and much more. And my newsletter does offer 30% off on all my videos and courses in my store on my website. And anyways, I hope you have a great February, and I'll see you for the next forecast in March. Take care.